News. Thanks for joining us. I'm here this morning with good friend David Winker to my left. And of course, we got Takedown Tommy over there operating the board. Today, a Friday, a lot of things happening.
Super Bowl weekend.
Super Bowl this weekend. Big game. Looking forward to that on Sunday. You'll probably be at the Miami Yacht Club.
We'll probably be watching
your skipper hat and all that stuff going on.
I christened me the Flying Wasp.
The Flying Wasp. You know, I gotta tell you guys, the Miami Yacht Club is the polar opposite of what you would expect
of any yacht
club in America.
I would tell anyone it is the best sailing club in town, and it is the polar opposite of what you'd expect when you see as the Commodore Mark Ingram. I got to give a shout out. Mark Ingram is an attorney in the Upper East Side. As the Commodore says, he goes, "Hey, listen, anyone can pay $20,000 to join Coral Reef. You got to be a real scumbag to be a member here."
Well, when I went to meet you there a couple weeks ago, I looked in the mirror and said, "Am I dressed right?" I mean, I wasn't sure if I was dressed.
And you showed up, and I'm there, no shirt on.
You had no shirt, your belly hanging out.
Meanwhile, Andy's wearing a seersucker suit.
Right, exactly. I mean, I had never been to the Miami Yacht Club before. I'd been to the club next door. The
Miami Outboard Club.
Outboard Club.
That's a little fancier.
It is, and that's not fancy.
And that's not fancy.
But when I got to the yacht club, I'm like, holy moly, man.
It has a very Keys. It's like the closest thing we still have to Jimbo's. It's like a little fancier version of Jimbo's.
It is.
I'd encourage anyone to come by. The restaurant is open to the public, and come check it out because the food is excellent.
Yeah, it is great there. So before we get started on the news of the day, I've been thinking about my good friend Takedown Tommy Stitt over here. I gave him a porn name that he could name himself. Tommy Stiff, I think. He just changes the last two letters of his last name, and he's got the perfect porn name, right?
Right.
And but Tommy is, I come in this morning, he looks like every time I'm here doing the 9 a.m. show, Tommy looks like he is just gotten out of bed.
Yeah, as my late deceased father, my deceased father would say, looks like a dog's breakfast.
A dog's breakfast, yes.
Doesn't even say that anymore.
Tommy is like, I helped celebrate his 50th birthday not long ago, just a few months ago. When was that? November.
Shout out to
December 4th
at
Duffy's, right on Red Road, and it was a great event. And Tommy turned 50. And he is the only 50-year-old teenager I think I've ever met.
Tom, but I gotta tell you, I think Tommy looks good for 50. I think most people think he looks less than 50.
He does.
But it is funny seeing he reminds me of in law school, like how people would show up, well, just in college, right? How you'd show up for the 8 a.m. class. Right. It's really not. Exactly. Tommy is a professional. Tommy is good at what he does. But it looks like UF 8 a.m. Calculus class. Like the people are just dragging in.
Yes, yeah, he does. Well, I want to say hi to Tanya Cruz Jimenez, who's watching with us today, and let's start there. You got a Jimenez. I want to talk a little bit about what happened on the House of Representatives in the House of Representatives yesterday.
I don't think anyone is talking more in local politics than that 3 of our local Republican leaders were part of the group of 11 that voted to take away committees from your friend and
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
QAnon. We always make you look at the screen and say her name. QAnon conspiracy follower.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Taylor
Greene, as you know, is the quote unquote QAnon Congresswoman.
She's one of them. There's more than one.
Yeah, and from Georgia, who has claimed that the Parkland massacre was, I don't know if you'd say a scam, but what
she calls it a false flag
operation.
Right? And it was interesting because this is not funny, but it was heartbreaking. I saw that father say, the idea that I have to show that my daughter is in the ground to this woman is like upsetting, that she's a representative, that she doesn't believe that my daughter's in the ground. And it is, I got to tell you, but I so many people reached out to me yesterday, just friends talking about, they're like, I cannot believe, and they named Carlos Jimenez, right? The Carlos Jimenez, but Mario Diaz-Balart. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting when a vote like that surprises us, right? I mean, were you surprised?
Well, at first I was, yes. And the three of them, as you said, Mario Diaz-Balart, Carlos Jimenez, Maria Elvira Salazar, all voted in favor of her being removed from the House committee.
They were like part of the 11 Republicans that broke ranks.
And at first I was surprised, but then I thought, is this just more politics at play? You know, Parkland is, especially what she said. I mean, she said a lot of outrageous things, that a Jewish family started the wildfires in California. I mean, she's had a lot of ridiculous comments that she's made. And you know, I thought first, well, good for them standing up. She shouldn't be in any leadership position. It was an outrage to me that Liz Cheney was the one being, you know, pseudo-censured, that the Republican Party people in Congress wanted to, you know, come down on Liz Cheney for breaking ranks on the impeachment, on her impeachment vote. But then I started to think, well, is this just more politics at play? Is because Parkland is so sensitive to us in South Florida that they're, again, currying for votes?
I don't know. I got to tell you something. I thought it was great. You know, it'd be interesting to see. You know, I got to tell you something. We'll see if it is, but it seems like it could be a move that we always talk about, going back to politics, where people just, there's a, you know, we're not like a parliamentary system where you have to vote in lockstep. And we want our politicians to vote their conscience. And it was like a step back in that right direction, where it's like they bucked the party. They did what was important to South Florida. And you can call it politics, you can minimize it, but at the end of the day, those are our elected representatives. And I swear to you, I looked at that list and I was proud of those guys. Like, I just was like, good job for Florida. Like, good job, Florida. Like, I thought, I was like, that's good. And so it could be as cynical as you're saying it. I don't know. You know, it'll be interesting to see how they unpack that going forward as everything moves forward, because now they got impeachment vote. Now they got, you know, they're right back into the fire. It's not, this is one little tiny vote and a bunch of bad stuff that's going to have to be a bunch of difficult votes that they're going to have for a while.
Well, I certainly like to see independence in our representatives. I like to see, whether they're Republican or Democrat, I like to see them, you know, voting their conscience and what they think is best for the district. I remember as a kid growing up here, we had Congress people that voted and were looking out for the interest of the residents in their district.
But also just that thing about life, like, we're businessmen, and it's like, you know, if you're my client and we go into a negotiation and you're just like, I'm not giving in on anything, we're going to do this. It's like, let's not waste our time going to the negotiation. That's not what a negotiation is. Right. You're going to get some stuff and you're going to give up some stuff. And I hope that our politics can get back to that old fashioned thing where it's like, you aren't attacked as being unprincipled if you look across the thing and say, like, you know what, I don't care this much about this, or I happen to agree on you in this, and you're going to vote with me on the next thing. You know, like, we're going to get some things done in a true bipartisan manner. And I felt like this felt a little bit like bipartisanship, where it was just like, you know what, I live in South Florida, I have to deal with South Florida, and like, I got to make a compromise here. And listen, think about, like, you can say it's politics, but think what the hell they're getting from their Republican colleagues. Yeah,
well, and listen, David, that's what we were, you and I, when we were young kids, young adults, that's what we were accustomed coming out of Washington. And it hasn't been that way for a long time.
Well, it's a bad word. Compromise is a bad word. I mean, I think that's the problem. Like, and I can tell you, just as a lawyer, like, I have a pretty bulldoggy reputation, but I will tell you, like, if we're not going to negotiate and we're going to go to the mat on every case, we're not going to have great results. Like, you have to know when to compromise. You have to know, we can litigate this case for 7 years and there's this pot of money out there, but we can settle now for this and move on to other things and use our emotional energy for something else. Like, it really is like, we got to get back to that to get the country going again.
Yeah. What do you think? Are you cynical like me? Do you think that it was a good move by these three congressional representatives here in South Florida? Do you think they voted their conscience, or they're just currying to the people of South Florida? I don't know. Tell us what you think by commenting on Facebook. Next story. And this really got me because it was so fresh with me when I saw it in the papers in the last couple of days and been reading about it online. 2 days ago, Brett Romberg and I interviewed Tony Bosch of Biogenesis.
And everyone should watch that and fact check Tommy. Said it was perhaps one of the best interviews he's ever seen.
Man.
Well, it was, my man is right. It was incredible. It was incredible. And one of the things that came out of that to me was how these professional sports leagues, in his case, Major League Baseball, but of course, Brett Romberg, I was with my partner on Wednesdays, Brett Romberg, doing our 2-hour show, Romberg and Korge. He likened it to the NFL, and it's these leagues. It's all about this. It's all about the money, and they really, as much as they like to make you think they care about the players, they really don't care about the players. So in the latest development with that, we all remember former University of Miami running back, NFL player Najee Davenport. Well, he's suing the NFL, and Najee is suing the NFL because he's suffering from the numerous concussions he had over a 7-year NFL career. He's had lingering effects that include memory loss and depression. And well, apparently, from what I understand in reading about this, the NFL treats white players and black players differently when measuring cognitive effects of concussions to determine compensation. And so this is how it works. The formula used to determine damages is inherently flawed due to a process known as, let me look down here, race norming, they call it. And what that means is, according to the lawsuit, is that if two players, one black and one white, tests reveal precisely the same degree of neurocognitive impairment, they're treated differently. And here's the premise. The reason was that the black former players automatically assumed through race norming to have started with a lower cognitive functioning than the white former player, is the claim in the lawsuit. So the lawsuit's saying if you're a black player, in essence, you're not as smart as a white player. So your cognitive level is lower going in to the NFL.
Right. The idea is we're unable to have a reliable starting point. So we're just going to assume that the black player had a lower starting point.
A lower starting point. And I can't even tell you how appalled I was to read this. That this is a what's amazing?
I'll tell you a couple things. So I don't know the background of this well enough, but I suspect this was part of a negotiated settlement. And just to think about being in that room, in that boardroom in New York, negotiating this with a straight face and saying, okay, here, but I don't want to pay a bonus for the black athletes because I think the black athletes, like, we have to start lower. It's very troubling. It's an interesting lawsuit. I have a couple of reactions to it. One, I actually personally know Najee from working at a law firm, and the law firm I worked at had a program where we would bring in every summer two UM players. And they would come in and they would actually work, right? And it was great. It was just it was great for them, to be at this penthouse suite working in a law firm. I mean, any kid, it's great experience. And it was great for us to spend time with them. And I really enjoyed it. And he's a really interesting guy. I was telling you before the show, he's kind of almost like today, he'd be like a gamer kid, kind of a nerd, and kind of a sensitive, quiet kid. And I remember at the time, thinking about what it must be like, because, and he doesn't look like, at the time, he's 6'2". He's a big guy. He's like 6 foot, 6 foot,
a big running back.
Big. I mean, he was a big running back with the big dreads and the whole thing. And I remember thinking his personality so doesn't fit his. It's like when you hear Mike Tyson talk, right? It doesn't fit what he looks like. And he kind of had that. And then I think about his career and, these kids, they come out of school and you make the NFL, it's such a big deal. But when you look at the earning capacity that you have, what the money that he made over 7 years,
right?
I don't think Najee has a lot of money right now, right? I mean, it doesn't work. Like, I mean, yeah, if you took that money and you carefully invested it and were very careful from day one, yes, 7 years of NFL salary, he probably, made $3-4 million, $5 million. And, like, it's the damage done to him. Like, if you're a mother,
is it worth it?
If you're a mother or a father right now thinking about sending your kid to school, like, his is a pretty typical story, right? I mean, he played for Green Bay. I mean, he had a cool career, and what's he left with?
Well,
neurological damage,
yeah,
depression.
I mean, listen, it is a very typical story. I've developed a relationship with Brett, getting to know him the past year and a half or so, and he tells me of memory loss he has. He played on the same team with Najee. They're, I think, 1 year apart. And so, Brett tells me that there's certain portions of his events in his life, vacations, parties, his wife, Emily, threw a big birthday bash for him at a club in South Beach. He has no memory of it anymore. Yeah. He was telling me a story recently a couple of years ago where they were planning trips. He says, well, why don't we go here? And she said, well, we just went there 5 years ago. Why do we want to take another trip to that, or a family trip there? And he goes, we did go there. I don't remember that at all. And so this is not an uncommon thing, but it's got to be, talk about a black eye on the NFL. Because here you are, the NFL saying unquestionably that, well, no, black players aren't as smart as white players. So when we're trying to determine compensation, they're at a lower level than the white players. So the decrease in their cognitive skills, if they're both at the same level, well, the white guy has suffered more than the black guy. And it's ridiculous proposition. I don't know that I've never heard of this fact being the case. And it's got to be another incredibly black eye on the NFL, which, by the way, I watched the 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN last night, the Rozelle versus
Art Davis.
Yeah, Al Davis documentary. And boy, that did not make the NFL look very good either. Okay, how they tried to roadblock everything Al Davis did, which changed the complexion of the NFL and the team's ability to call their own destiny, to move from one location to another. A ripple effect happened once Al Davis won the second lawsuit in Los Angeles to move the Raiders to LA from Oakland back in the early 90s. So, there you are. But Najee Davenport is a 41-year-old in all of our estimations. That's a pretty young guy still, and
should be in the prime of his career.
Not
NFL career, but it is earning capacity in just a normal life
as an adult. And like you said, he probably, it's not like he made, not everyone's Tom Brady.
Hey, fact check Tommy when you get a chance. Would you do career earnings for Najee Davenport?
But so now you've got a guy who is, really, how does he earn now? I mean, he's suffering from depression. Yeah. He has memory loss. How does he earn now as an adult the rest of his life? I mean, shouldn't the NFL be responsible for him now?
Well, it's interesting because the question you're asking, I think, goes to how we do as consumers of football. I love football. I love high school football. I love college football. I love NFL football. I love watching football. I love consuming football. And we have to recognize that there's a cost to it. And it's interesting because my father, who played college football at a high level, forbid me from playing football. It was like riding a motorcycle.
Really?
It was like there was off it. For him, he didn't have cognitive issues, which I'll get to in a second. But it was, he had surgery on each shoulder, on each thing. I remember as a kid, like looking at his knees. He had multiple knee surgeries. He'd had all that stuff, and he's just like, "Don't do it." It's like in his mind, it was always like football was a last resort, right? You're not good enough at basketball. You're not good enough at baseball. Right. Then you go play football because you can. You're good at violence, right? And it was interesting because but he didn't have the cognitive stuff. And when the cognitive stuff came up, he was joking because he would say, like, I played in the era of segregation and we were white guys and we weren't fast enough and strong enough to cause concussions like that, right? That generation didn't have the same problems as today's game. But the idea is, I think that the consumer needs to feel good that we're taking care of the players. Does that make sense? Like, this story doesn't make me feel good. I enjoyed watching Najee Davenport in high school, in college at UM, in the pros. I enjoyed that. So now what is my responsibility? You know, I think that, like, I want the NFL to take care of people like this. I want them to have programs to do it. And it goes as far as even the employment programs. Because the problem that I have with the athletes is my father, having been through the process, when I went away to school, he's like, listen, if you're going to compete at sports at a high level, you can't have a plan B. Like, you have to give your all to the sport. But he's like, but you got to have a plan B because you're not going to make it. 99.9% chance you're not going to make it on the next level. And he would always say, you're in college, man. Like, get good grades. Like just you got to go to class anyways.
Right.
So just do well. Right. And then you're going to end up and your career is going to be over. And it's like, what are you going to do? And I think that I'm not sure people are having this conversation with these kids. I don't, Najee, I think, has a UM degree. I'm pretty sure he graduated. And it's like, is he equipped to move forward with the world? You'd feel better about it, but now he has these cognitive injuries that prevent him from doing it. So my point is, we're all part of this, and we need to be part of the solution to say, if you want football to continue, you have to address this. Oh, look at Gloria Ann Burns, 2 years.
That was one contract he had.
Yeah.
His total career earnings is something like 18 million.
18 million.
That much? Really?
Yeah, but he was a star. So 18 million. That's 18 million over, that career.
But see, here's the problem with even saying that number, because there's people that might watch a show and are listening to this dialogue we're having, and they'll say, well, the guy made $18 million. What is he complaining about?
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that worth shortening your life the way he shortened his life? I mean, again, I love Brett, and I hear some of the stories he tells me, and I worry about my friend Brett Romberg and his future. He's got a 2, a 4, and a 6-year-old daughter. Okay, is he going to see them graduate from college? Is he going to see them? Is he going to walk them down the aisle when they get married? I mean, is he going to enjoy those things that one enjoys? I'm a 60-year-old male, and I've walked one of my daughters down the aisle. I've got my grandkids that I can hold and play with. These guys don't have that for our entertainment. And granted, yes, they make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it's for our entertainment. And let me tell you a little secret in case you didn't know this. Who makes makes the real money? Yeah. Those owners.
Well,
that Jerry Jones,
the TV networks,
120 foot yacht, drafting players in last April from his 120-foot yacht as he's throwing one drink down after another because he's a pseudo-alcoholic.
Man.
Oh, yeah. I don't like I tell you what, I don't like these owners at all. I don't like them at all because I think it's a big ego trip. It's a billion dollar company. We saw the NFL for years, especially under Paul Tagliabue and then Roger Goodell, hid the whole concussion crisis and the concussion issue from the players that were being harmed. I don't like it at all. And this is just another example of the inequity in the NFL and what they're doing to the players.
Go Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Super Bowl. Before we talk about the Super Bowl, I got to talk about this, and I want to get your opinion and yours too. If you have any comments, please give us your comments if you're watching live on Facebook. So in an interview Wednesday, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez confirmed to the Miami Herald that he scheduled a telephone interview with Elon Musk for today, Friday, February 5th. The talk's likely to include discussions of building tunnels underneath Miami. Yeah, let's just build tunnels everywhere. I mean, let's not build housing for people that can't afford to live here or transportation to get us around better. Let's talk with Elon Musk about building tunnels all over the place.
He just needs to blast Miami to Mars.
I mean, the subject of an initial, it started on Twitter, an exchange between Musk and Suarez. Both Suarez and other Florida politicians, including Governor Ron DeSantis, are courting Musk and other tech companies executives to bring their companies to the Sunshine State. Okay, again, what about the people making $50,000, $60,000, $40,000 a year that can't find a damn
you know, this
affordable
feels like.
place to
So
live?
I have a couple of reactions to this. It's interesting. I share your skepticism, but I'm also like, I actually like what the mayor does. Like, I think that like Francis doesn't really have any power as the mayor, right? He doesn't have a vote.
There's nothing.
This is kind of cool what he's doing.
He's good at getting
But
on
frankly,
Twitter or getting in front of camera.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is working. Like, we do have people moving here now. It does have, you know what it has a feeling of? I remember who was the lawyer, the fact check Tommy, who was the lawyer that got in trouble with the porn star that represented the porn star against Trump?
Michael Cohen.
No, the other side that was representing the porn star.
Oh, I don't.
Avenatti.
Okay.
Avenatti. Remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And Avenatti is going to jail. Avenatti got caught stealing
really?
money from her.
Okay.
He was extorting money from Nike. There's all these problems. But Avenatti, at the time, one of my buddies who's a big Trumper was like, Avenatti's going to get disbarred and Avenatti's going to go to jail. And it was interesting because he was right. But he told me that. It was a lawyer, and he told me that. And it was interesting because Avenatti, what he would do was everything was in turmoil in his life. And he would just be like, the next deal. Like, just get $1 million in. You can keep the party going for a little bit longer, even though the IRS is trailing you, even though, it's all a Ponzi scheme, basically. And this has a little bit, I think where you're going with this is like, it's a good thing. I think moving tech people here is good.
No problem.
I think the evidence is there that people are moving here. I don't know if jobs are coming, but at least people are moving. And Miami's getting good publicity. But it does have a little bit of feeling that, right? Like, it's like the sea level's rising, the corruption is terrible.
The bay is getting polluted.
The bay is polluted. No one, there's no policies to help address anything that's happening. So it's an interesting confluence. Now, one of the things that I would say to you, to hate to be too cynical, is like bringing these people in. How's it going to affect our politics? Maybe it's good, right? Maybe people come in. What's their appetite going to be when Joe Carollo cites them from working from home, right? Calls code enforcement on them that their employees are working from home. Like, there's a lot of structural problems, from corruption to public transport to education, that we have. And I'm not sure having this class of people come in is a bad thing.
Look, let's be honest, because people will say, here's the argument on the other side. Oh, we're going to it's going to create all these jobs. The reality of it is these tech companies move to an area, and most of the real good jobs that they have are people that are coming with them. So it's going to mean an influx in population to our community of new people. Will it create some jobs? Probably lower level jobs for people here. It's not a bad thing, but again, it's going to create a burst of higher prices in real estate values. Okay, and people who own real estate could be happy about that. But again, what about the 25, 30-year-old kid, young adult that lives in South Florida that can't find an affordable place to live? They got to live way out in West Kendall, or they got to live down near Homestead and commute. And what about the transportation problems that's going to cause? Why aren't these politicians, instead of always looking for the bigger, better next deal, dealing with our problems?
Because that's
right
the hard
here
work.
and now?
That's the hard work.
Man.
That's the hard work. And it's just easier. Think how much more fun is it to have a conference call with Elon freaking Musk about building tunnels than it is to address affordable housing, to fight corruption.
Yeah, affordable.
Fight cronyism.
Yeah.
To fight,
Exactly.
I think that's part of it. And I think, but I got to tell you something. I don't share the skepticism. Like, I think unlike building your way through the problem, like building more businesses, like bringing these people in. Like, I saw something the other day where it said like Microsoft is trying to rent 50,000 square foot on Brickell. I don't know if it's true or not, but that can't be a bad thing, right? They're going to hire people. They're going to, there is a side effect of it. So I don't know. The jury's out. I think that it'll change I think this is the kind of move it's like a tipping point that can change the politics of a city. I mean, my county commissioner is Eileen Higgins. And Eileen Higgins, self-made multimillionaire, moves here from Arizona. She moved here.
Yeah.
And she runs. I mean, and she runs, she gets elected. She fights off Renier in a really ugly racial politics. Like, we should have a Cuban, this is a Cuban district. It should have a Cuban
ridiculous
commissioner. We went through all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think that Eileen got elected because the complexion of Miami's changing. I seriously think that's part of it. And whatever you think of Eileen, and she's got her detractors, but like, I'm glad Eileen's in government. Like I just personally, I just think it's a good thing. And it brings a new perspective to a Miami. She sticks out like a sore thumb. She doesn't look like the other commissioners. She doesn't talk like the other commissioners. And I think that that's the kind of thing that you could see more of.
Maybe you're right. Maybe if these tech companies start to come to South Florida, maybe it forces these politicians that have been, not addressing some of these incredible needs we have for housing, transportation, education, etc. Maybe it's going to force them to do it now.
And frankly, we got, one thing you got to say about these tech people, whatever you want to say, this is the creative class. This is someone who's going to move into a situation, and I'm not sure they're just going to be like happy to pay bribes they're not guys that are going to be like, oh, to do business, I've got to pay money into Alex Diaz de la Portilla's PAC. I got to give money to Joe Carollo's wife to run something.
Right.
Like, I don't think they're going to have the patience for that. I think they're going to be like, no, this can't be. This can't be.
Right. Well, we'll see how all of that turns out. The big phone call between Francis Suarez and Elon Musk. I mean, talking about, tunnels.
I didn't know you were so anti-tunnel.
I mean, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? But let's, we have a new segment we're going to introduce every Friday here on the Andy Korge Show at Miami Community News, and that's our quotes of the week. And I've got some great quotes this week that we can opine on. And again, love to get your comments and your
quotes
and your quote. Maybe you have some good quotes. Feed them to us right here on Facebook Live. Just type it in, and we'll read it and see what you think. So let's start with Elon Musk, since we're talking about him. So billionaire Elon Musk has called out this week short sellers. We saw what happened this week with that battle between Wall Street Bets and their little group on Reddit and the hedge funds that are the shorting all these stocks. And so Elon Musk got into the fray on Twitter when he was quoted as saying, "You can't sell houses you don't own. You can't sell cars you don't own, but you can sell stock you don't own. This is BS. Shorting is a scam." What do you think?
I think that he doesn't want this to happen to him. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to short Tesla. And it is an interesting problem. It's funny. I had a friend. It's funny that you bring this up, because I had a friend who's a very sophisticated business person. And she was talking about the psychology of someone shorting you, right? Like, she's like, if this was my company, I would be so upset that someone because I was talking about shorting is, I think, part of the healthy market. Like, I honestly do think it's part of.
Well, Elon Musk does.
He doesn't, exactly. But I do think it is. People can say, like, I don't believe in this management. I don't believe in this course. I have information that makes me think that, this is going to happen. So I'm going to bet against this. But it is interesting. Like, I think about, like, what if someone shorts, Andy Korge? Like, how does that make you feel? Like,
it's almost an insult, right?
I think Andy's gonna fail, so I'm betting big on Andy failing. Like, it's a funny.
Fortunately, I'm not a publicly traded company, because I'm sure many people would have hedged.
They'd be piling in on shorts.
Be piling in on that.
Put my money down on Andy failing.
No question. But I would have my 50-year-old teenager, Tommy, take down Tommy. Yeah, there you go. I'd have my 50-year-old teenager, Tommy Stitt, porn name Tommy Stiff. I would have him, helping me on that.
And think about how, like, business is hard. So we're here at Miami Community Newspapers.
Yes.
What? Do your plug for Miami Communities.
The hub for local, local news and information. It's true.
Think about, I walked in this morning and talk about a dog's breakfast, right? There's Mike Miller and there's Grant Miller, schlepping in. It sounds like they came from the press. Like I see the newspapers pouring out the garage door. Like, they're loading up the trucks. Like everyone's been up all night running the newspapers, And I was thinking, it's like, it's hard to run a business, right? Yeah, and think about those guys also waking up to, here's all these new people betting against your company, right?
Yeah. I mean, my gosh,
we're shorting community news.
Yeah, Elon Musk makes a great point. You can't sell a house you don't own. How can you sell stocks you don't own? I mean, so I don't know. I like the comment. Here's a great one. It's Super Bowl week. So a reverend from Texas, a Jesuit priest, Reverend James Martin, among the experts who were asked to compare quarterback Tom Brady with other figures of great stature. And this is what he said, quote, Pope Francis is not married to a supermodel, so that's where the comparison slips a bit. And it made me think, I mean, I'm rooting for Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, but that guy, I hate him. I mean, he's married to a supermodel that probably makes double what he does.
She makes double.
Not only is she beautiful.
I looked it up. She makes double.
She makes double what he makes. I think his salary this year is $30 million, maybe something like that. 25 million, 30 million. So I mean, here's a guy, and I love the comparison. Pope Francis is not married to a supermodel. Maybe the Catholic Church should think about, maybe letting priests get married, and they could get married to a supermodel.
So it's funny. Gloria Ann Burns, thanks for listening. I love your comments. It was funny because I was listening to sports radio, and they were talking about how actually Tom looks like, he's going backwards, right? His face actually looks clearer, like he looks younger. And someone was like talking about, is it the diet? He's one of these guys I just so respect. Like, I've heard Chris McCaffrey said this one time too. Like Chris McCaffrey's like, I look the way I do, my body is the way it is because I stopped eating for pleasure, 5 years ago or whatever. And it's so hard because it's like one of the big pleasures in life, right? And so they were talking about that, and Tom eats all these shakes and all this crap, and takes all these pills and vitamins. And it was like, and then someone said like, yeah, but you gotta not discount being married to Gisele Bündchen. And it was like, what effect does that have? and it was funny because one of the broadcasters was saying like, how do you factor that in? And one of the other guys was like, talk about like having to go home after saying this, but he's like, well, I can testify to it. I can testify to the effect. And the guy's like, well, you're not married to Gisele Bündchen. He's like, no. Like I can testify to the opposite effect. I look the way I do because of my wife. like, dude, come on. It's interesting because whenever I think about Gisele Bündchen, it's funny bringing it up because I remember that moment when they lost the Super Bowl was Tommy, which one was it they lost? And her famous quote of, he can't throw the ball. Tommy can't throw the ball and catch the ball.
Yeah.
So that's a supportive wife.
Yeah. And then that was, I think, the start actually of him, wanting to maybe depart New England because the message in that Super Bowl was, hey, you better put some players around him. And boy, he's got a lot of great players around him in Tampa right now. Makes me think he's not nearly finished.
He's not going to budge. It's interesting. And I got to tell you something. This is... Talk about cementing your legacy. Like I always say, I steal from Dan Le Batard. Like, what do we know to be true? One thing we know to be true is that Bill Belichick, without Brady, doesn't make the playoffs. Brady, without Bill Belichick, drags these bums to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
I know.
But Tom Brady, it was addressed in some of the interviews this week leading up to the Super Bowl, and Brady said the exact opposite.
I know. But that's what's funny to think about.
Yes,
and this is one of those things. Like this is what I like as a lawyer. I can tell you this: when you go against skilled lawyers, like skilled lawyers lose. And this has that feeling of like, oh yeah, I won this, like
Yeah,
I won this motion.
Right.
And here comes this legend of the law. Ain't going anywhere. He's gonna come back and kick my butt. Bill Belichick definitely. Bill's in a basement somewhere drawing up plays right now.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. Well, I know you're a big sports fan. I want to finish with this last quote, which I love, from our very own. Good morning, George Gonzalez.
Yes,
Great to have you
George.
aboard. I wanna just talk about, because one of my favorite players, and I think he's the GOAT in his sport, LeBron James. So this is one of the best of the week, and so apparently tensions rose in a game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers this week, where Portland Trailblazer backup center Enes Kanter stood toe-to-toe with LeBron James as a fight was about to ensue. The game was getting physical. They stood toe-to-toe. And Enes, it's a double quote here. I got a twofer. Enes was quoted as saying to LeBron, "What do you call yourself? King, queen, princess, whatever you are, we're going to get in a fight here." And LeBron retorted with this, which I thought was great. "Get it straight, Enes. I'm the king. My wife's the queen and my daughter's the princess. So we have all three covered." And I can only imagine that must have sort of diffused the whole fight, right?
This is Sparta!
It must have diffused the whole fight. Keep that going, Tommy. I love that stuff. It really must have diffused the fight.
It's funny to think about it too. And I can't remember who it was. I wish I remembered who it was. Some sports commentator talking about. He just made a throwaway line. He said, "He's like, do you have any doubt that 80 years ago, LeBron? He was talking about Shaq at the time, but that Shaq would have been heavyweight champion of the world." Because that's all he could have done, right? There wouldn't have been. And I think about LeBron that way. Is like, can you imagine fighting LeBron? It's an interesting, this whole LeBron, that quote is so LeBron to me, because it's like, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. I don't know why. It's hard to think of why. He does everything perfect. Like he even trash talks perfect, right? He didn't like F you. He didn't call him a punk. Like, it's like everything the man does is on point. You know what I'm saying,
man? He's just a winner. No matter what it is, he seems to win at it. Well, kudos to you, LeBron, for that. I just want to close today. I want to thank everybody watching live and people that maybe tune in after. I just want to read, I don't know if you know this about me, David Winker, but I love to read my horoscope every day, my zodiac sign.
And what does your horoscope say, Andy?
My zodiac sign is Taurus. I was born on April.
You
April
are a
6th.
bull. Yeah.
Yeah, April 6th. And hopefully you'll remember that for a nice present on my birthday in the next few months. But I wanted to read this today, and I hope Michael Miller is listening. And here's my horoscope. If you've been job hunting, a promising offer could come through for you today. If you're happy where you are, which I am, there could be a bonus or raise coming. Your hard work is paying off. Hey, Michael Miller, I hope you're listening.
Michael,
it's my horoscope.
Better fire up that check machine.
Exactly.
Print those checks.
You heard it. A bonus or raise is coming, Michael Miller. So hope that you didn't spend too much money on those hair plugs that you got in there, and that you got a little of that gelt left over for little old Andy Korge right here. But David Winker, thanks for joining me today.
Great seeing you. Thanks, Tommy.
It's always good having you. Thank you, Takedown Tommy Stiff. I appreciate it. Appreciate it for all you do.
Tommy,
here.
quick Super Bowl prediction.
Yes, let's do it right now.
Tampa Bay covers. They're late. They're getting 3. They cover. I don't know about the over/under. It's gone down to 56.
You heard it.
But who's going to wait? Who's going to win? It's always about covering, right?
Tampa.
Tampa's going to win. Okay.
Tampa wins and covers.
What do you think?
I don't think Tampa can do it. I don't know about the cover, but I think the Kansas City's
even
win.
With their linemen out, they've got a lot of line.
I think Kansas City's going to win.
I agree with you.
I watched them. I was at the Super Bowl last year. Kansas City came back. Kansas City's tough, man.
They're tough. So we got 2 Kansas Cities And we got a Tampa Bay homer here. I'm rooting for Tampa Bay, but I think Kansas City's going to win it. Thanks for joining us. We got to get out of here. We got another show coming.
Stay tuned.
Right here to Miami Community Newspaper, as David Winker always says, the hub of local news and information. Thanks for joining us on the Andy Korge Show, and we'll see you next week right here at Miami Community News. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.